All right, Thriller fans, welcome to another awesome episode and live stream here tonight. My guest is Bob Adamcik. Bob Adamcik, sorry. Bob, how you doing?
Doing good, sir.
Thanks for coming on. I look forward to hearing more about your career as a naval surface warfare officer, as well as your Martini Squad Adventures series that you have, including a new book, Waveforce Affair. So we're going to get into that here shortly. But thanks for coming on and doing this. Is this your first kind of like live podcast?
It is indeed. This is awesome.
Well, good. We're gonna have a lot of fun, but be about an hour. So if you got comments or anything like that, folks, drop them in the comments. I'm gonna drop a link to Bob's book here in just a few minutes, and we'll kind of get rolling. But Bob, tell me a little bit about yourself. When did you join the Navy, and how long were you in?
Well, it's a native of Cleveland, Ohio. I enlisted in 1984 while I was still finishing high school. I was in a program where I could split my training up across a couple of summers. So went through recruit training in 1984, finished high school and graduated in 1985, which is like 40 years ago now. Went to a Navy school at Great Lakes for another 4 weeks. It was 40 years ago this summer. Then picked up an ROTC scholarship at the Ohio State University. Where I got commissioned 4 years later when I graduated with my history degree and became a surface warfare officer.
Did you always want to join the Navy, or was that something that was just kind of something that you just kind of randomly did?
Pretty much since I was a sophomore in high school, I
Okay.
was interested in the Navy, especially ships. So first opportunity, raised my hand, and 25 years later, retired as a lieutenant commander.
Did you see yourself as a surface warfare officer, or how did that work for you joining the Navy? Did you have a particular job in mind, or was that selected for you? Like I know it does. Like I had the choice to choose when I joined the Air Force, but not everybody was like that, and we're so fortunate. So, how about you?
Well, surface warfare was kind of thrust upon me because my eyesight was so bad I couldn't fly.
Gotcha.
But
Got
I had a great time on my six ships and worked with some amazing people.
So what exactly is a surface warfare officer, and what do they do?
Basically, surface warfare officers were ship drivers. Uh, where we started out as division officers leading sailors. My first two division officer tours on my first ship, the destroyer John Hancock, I was the first lieutenant, which meant I had the deck force guys, the bosun's mates. Then I was the gunnery officer, where I had the gunner's mates and the fire controlman. Uh, Worked through the ranks. I did three department head tours, one as the operations officer on the fleet oiler Merrimack, assistant ops on the assault ship Peleliu, and navigator on the assault ship Baton. And that's my combat deployments were on her in 2002 and 2003. And then finished off my executive officer, what we call special mission tour. It's like an XO equivalent. And I was the second engineer and damage control assistant on the carrier John F. Kennedy, the first one.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool. So
Yeah,
very
so six
very
ships in
busy
total.
career. Wow. So
Yes, sir.
you are the guy physically steering the boat.
No, I have a
No.
helmsman for that. I'm the one who's giving the helmsman the orders as the conning officer. Then later, as the officer of the deck, I'm in charge of the bridge. And after my during my department head tours, I stood tactical action officer in our CICs, where I was basically the guy responsible for the defense of the ship. And as a TAO, I actually had weapons release authority, where I could actually use the weapons without the commanding officer's permission in defense of the ship.
In defense of the ship.
Yeah,
That's a pretty big
because sometimes you don't have yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's a pretty big key part
You
of
don't
that
have
is
time
like
to call the captain when you're under attack and get permission. You just
sure. That makes sense. That
yeah.
makes a lot
I
of
just
sense.
can't just willy nilly say, "Hey, let's go shoot somebody."
Yeah, we're outside the coast of Iran or whatever. Let's go start a World War III, right?
Right.
So
I'm also now that I'm a retired guy.
go ahead.
I'll say now that I'm a retired guy, I'm also a volunteer on the Battleship Wisconsin Museum here in Norfolk, and I get to tell my guests every Friday afternoon what I did in the Navy and show them around that awesome ship.
That is really cool. And we were talking just a little bit ago offline about your current job. Sounds pretty secret because you can't take phones inside the building. And I've been there before when I worked up at Space Command when we established the Space Force. I worked in a building that was similar to it where there's no cell phones inside. But like we were joking around, people would leave their ringers on still in the little cubbies, and you could hear them when you walked by the lobby and all that. But so you're currently still working for the Navy as a civilian?
Right, I'm a contractor. The company I work for is called Core Services Group, and
Okay,
I'm a senior test engineer. I support the Navy's Operational Testing Command. We get to test all the toys just before they're released to the fleet.
that sounds interesting. I bet that's some pretty fun stuff.
Yeah, it has been.
So tell me something that obviously you can tell me without getting yourself in trouble. What's been one of the funnest experiences you've had doing that job?
Well, I started that particular job at OpTev 4 when I was still in uniform. I got off the John F. Kennedy, and I was the operational. You're going to love this. I'm a surface warfare officer. I'm a surface ship driver.
Mm-hmm.
So they put me in charge of testing a submarine program.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, tell me I don't work for the government.
Right?
So I was the test director for the guided missile submarine conversion program, and I got to ride all four of the Ohio class boats they converted: the Ohio, Michigan, Florida, and Georgia, shooting Tomahawks, landing SEALs, all that great stuff. And me being a surface ship office, surface warfare officer, I also had a submariner lieutenant working for me, and his job was to make sure I didn't touch the wrong valve
Well,
somewhere on
that's
the boat.
pretty important, I would imagine, especially when you're that
Yes,
far
sir.
underwater. What is the big difference between a surface ship and a submarine? I mean, obviously I know the difference, but like for you, a guy who's been in the bowels, at the helm, what is the big difference between the two?
Obviously, submarines move in 3 dimensions, and the surface ships only move in two. Plus, as far as our career progressions, all submarine warfare officers have to go through nuclear power school before they report to their boats. I, as a surface warfare officer, didn't have to do that, and that's a very fortunate thing because nuclear power school is hard, especially
Hmm.
with a history degree.
So you were on the John F. Kennedy, first version of the John F. Kennedy. Is that what
Right.
you said?
Yep. CV-67.
And that was back before they were all nuclear powered, so you didn't have to go to nuclear school.
Right. So, yeah, she was the second to last conventional carrier in commission. She was decommissioned in 2007, and shortly thereafter, the last one, the Kitty Hawk, was decommissioned. So now they're all nuclear.
Wow. So, in your kind of expert opinion, what's the difference between boats of yesterday and or ships of yesterday and ships of today?
Well, that's the cool thing about my job. I get to ride ships of today. Back in January of 24, I was doing some testing on something I can't talk about on the destroyer Pinckney out of San Diego. She's a Flight 2 Alpha Arleigh Burke class ship, and lots of same stuff, lots of different stuff. But the important thing is that the crew, the captain and the crew, were awesome, just like they were when I was in uniform. So that's the big difference. There is no difference between sailors today and sailors of yesterday.
Okay, so you've been in quite a few conflicts, dating all the way back to Desert Storm, and pretty storied career. Desert Storm, Southern Watch, Stabilize, and then of course OIF and OIF. So for you, how did warfare change in your opinion from Desert Storm all the way through OEF and OIF?
Well, for me, I was on John Hancock. We were basically, obviously, we're a destroyer, and we were doing boardings in the Red Sea. So we were doing a lot of stuff every day, but we weren't really under imminent attack when I was there. It was a little bit after the conflict officially ended in February of '91. I was there in December of '91. But when I was navigator on Bataan, putting Marines ashore in Operation Iraqi Freedom for the initial assaults, that got a little interesting for me because first night we pulled in off the Kuwaiti coast, we were escorted by minesweepers. And I saw the triangle green running lights that minesweepers show as they're minesweeping. That's the first time I ever saw it in real life. And I'm like, whoa, this is, we're not kidding. This is it.
Wow. So mine, like literally, you were navigating through a minefield.
Potentially, yeah. Had to make sure that everything was clear before we could take our operating areas and start putting our Marines ashore.
Oh, so it goes in first, sweeps the area, and then you come in after it.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That's got to be kind of a nerve-wracking kind of ordeal, hoping that, one, you don't run into any, and two, that they did a good job and that they swept the area and that you can roll through there, because all it takes is one, right?
Yeah, they did a great job, obviously. Exactly. Just ask the Princeton or the Tripoli.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, once we got our Marines ashore, Bataan and our late sister ship, the Bonhomme Richard, we were like basically aircraft carriers 5 and 6 flying Harrier close air support sorties off our flight deck. We had the day shift, they had the night shift, and we did that for like 6 solid weeks, and it was awesome. The crew was just constantly busy, everybody doing their job, and well, it was definitely a very intense experience, but also a great experience.
That's very cool. What's your most like memorable moment of being active duty?
Oh wow!
Or a unique story that
Probably,
you'd like to
probably
share?
the phone calls I got. The phone call I got on Christmas, just a couple days before Christmas, telling us, "Hey, Commander Adamcik, get back to the ship now. We're getting ready to go to Iraq."
Right before Christmas.
Yeah, our
Wow.
Christmas leave. Yeah, I was on the first leave period, and the day we're supposed to turn over, the second leave period is supposed to go on Christmas break. They're like, "Nope, we're going."
Mm. It seems to be kind of the difference between some of the services is, for what I've seen, because I've worked a couple of joint assignments, and from what I've seen, it kind of tends to be like that a little bit. Whereas the Air Force, I'm speaking very broadly, not specifically, but for the Air Force, it seems to be a little more planned. Special operations obviously is not as publicly planned, but I've noticed that with the Navy, it's like, as a show of force, they'll just turn a whole carrier group around and say, go back and go patrol this part of the
Yeah,
world, and just, it's that kind of that show of force that in a way, I feel bad for the sailors because they'll be on their way home and then they'll be like, well, nope, actually we're busting a UE and we're going back to this location as a show of force, especially with China acting up like they have been the last couple of years. That seems like going to be, if it is a conflict, it's going to be very heavy on the Navy conflict, and carrier
yeah, it's going
groups
to be
are
a
a huge show of force.
yeah, like they said in the great movie In Harm's Way. It's going to be a mother love Navy war.
Yeah, you really will, and it's going to be kind of a scary one too, because I'd like to get your thoughts on it. We're going to fight that in China's backyard, essentially, right there next to Taiwan, in kind of the South China Sea, and not too far from Japan and Korea and all them. So it's kind of like a melting pot of things going on over there. What do you think, as a former surface warfare officer? What do you think about that?
Uh, it's going to be hairy for those guys, the forward deployed naval force here in Yokosuka, and any of the forces deploying from Third Fleet in San Diego and Hawaii. I just say God bless them. That's all I can. That's all I can say about it.
What do you think a war with China looks like?
Probably, like you said, very very brief.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it would be. What scares me most about it is if China just ups and decides to invade Taiwan. Like, I feel like they're going to invade and be in there before we can really react because they're so close.
Oh
Um,
yeah, 25 miles.
yeah, yeah, it's close. I'm surprised they haven't done it already. I think the only thing that's stopping them is world economies and starting a major war. I think other than that they would try to do it already, but um, that's a whole nother conversation we could probably talk on for hours. But let's talk
Sure.
about your books. Let's talk about
Yes, sir.
the Martini Squad Adventures. First, how
Yes,
did you
sir.
come up with that name, and where's the
Well,
kind of roots behind that?
all right, longtime James Bond fan, obviously. And in my first series of books about my hero, call sign Gargoyle, first three books were Nautical Strike, Personal Strike, and Final Strike. I introduced a character based on a friend of mine, Charles Axworthy, call sign Bryce, and he's actually a real person. I met him in real life back in 2018, and I had some business out in Los Angeles at LA Air Force Base. I met for dinner, of course, martinis, and it's a great guy. And I kind of just say, okay, what if, the gentleman spy had a team of folks working with him? You had the second in command, the computer guy, the explosives guy, and the muscle and the sniper, have a group like that together. And he, hold on a second. How she got triggered, I don't know. Give me a second.
That's so funny.
Sorry about that. She's rather rude.
We
But
won't say her
yeah,
name
so
again. That way it doesn't go off. But that's so funny.
no. But the and if you read in the books, Charles has his own source of income. So instead of making the most out of the taxpayer's dollar, like I make a joke about that in Waveforce Affair, he actually uses his own money to actually live a little more of the high life and actually enjoy himself. And the team, of course, enjoys himself with him because the team may not survive a particular mission. So enjoy yourself while you can.
Yeah, nothing wrong with
And
that.
the Martini Squad is kind of like a nickname the other teams gave his team.
So you said you're a long-time Bond fan, as so many people are. It's a very historic franchise. It's very beloved. People have their opinions on it. What do you think about the future of the Bond franchise now that Amazon has control?
Well, at least we got movement, unlike when Eon still had control. We have a director, we have a script writer, we have a producer. So it's just the baby steps to actually start making a film.
Do
So
you
progress
have?
is made. I like
Yeah, me too. Do you have a guy in mind who you'd like to see play James Bond?
progress. I mean, Henry Cavill would have been great, but his time
Oh,
may have passed. And of the current crop of actors, I really don't have an opinion right now.
yeah. I had an opinion several years ago. When they were kind of talking about who was going to be next. And I think Daniel Craig had one or two movies left before his time was going to be up, and the rumors were swirling around. Henry Cavill was one of them. There's several other actors that I was like, man, this would be really really good. So I'll be curious to see who they cast next and kind of what the future looks like.
Yeah, and if I ever had a chance to meet Mr. Craig, I have to offer him an apology because when he was announced in 2006 for Casino Royale, I'm like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
But then I saw him in Munich, and one scene in particular where he and Eric Bana tracked down the Dutch female assassin at her houseboat,
Yep.
and I watched that. I'm like, that was a really great, really intense scene. And I'm like, okay, he's got it,
Yeah.
good to go.
Yeah. He had some pretty good offerings, I think, as Bond. I think people had their anytime you cast somebody in that role after Sean Connery, people are going to have their doubts like, I don't know if this is going to live up to it. And I remember hearing that when Pierce Brosnan took over, and people are like, I don't know, and it turned out great. He has one of the more memorable of the Bond movies under his resume. But I thought Daniel Craig did a good job. I'd be really curious to see who they do next, because it's such a beloved franchise, but it's people really have an opinion about it, and rightfully so. And it's like, well, what do you do for the most, infamous spy in the world, who do you cast for that? Because you have to get it right.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, talking more about the Martini squad. I said I have Charles Axworthy, call sign Bryce. He's the leader and the epitome of the gentleman spy. His second in command is a African American Navy officer and SEAL, call sign Angel, and she is named after somebody I worked with when I briefly supported Commander Naval Air Forces Atlantic here in Norfolk. She is a retired lieutenant commander, admin officer.
Okay.
Great person. One of those people just walk in, smiles, just makes everybody's life better. And her name is Yamilet Brown, and I'm like, oh, that's a great name. And
It
so,
is.
with her permission, I used that. And her calls when she was working at a F-18 squadron as the administrative officer, her call sign was Angel. So I carry that over.
Very cool. So your new
The
book is
Yep.
the Waveforce Affair. That's coming out soon, or is it already out?
It is already out.
It's already
Came
out.
out middle of July. Yes, sir.
Middle of July. Okay, so what's the Waveforce Fair about? And then I want to talk to you about how you got started in writing. But tell us about a little bit about the Waveforce Affair. Spoiler free if you want to.
I didn't quite catch your last there, Jeff. Say again, please.
So tell me about the Waveforce Affair. Spoiler free if you want to, or you can do some spoils. It's up to you.
No worries. Said starts out with a gentleman named Raphael. He actually modeled after a actual person. He and his wife Molly. Molly was one of the lieutenants I supported at Optev 4, and she told me about her husband, that a Costa Rican native at the Naval Academy, the exchange student, and that's how they met. So I kind of said, "Ooh, that sounds interesting." So he works for a French aviation company in real life. I won't say the name, but in the book, it's Waveforce Aviation or Waveforce Aerospace. And he comes into possession of some material that the Russian SVR is very interested in. And takes off. Molly tracks down another character of mine from my first series of books, James Robert Bob Morgan, professor at James Madison, a history professor and retired Navy officer and CIA officer.
Okay.
And she enlists his help to go track him down, and the Martini squad is dispatched first to Andorra, then to Tokyo, into Russia itself, and then finally over the North Atlantic. They have some fun.
So how did you get started in writing? Was it something that you always wanted to do, or were you a longtime reader that kind of influenced you? Because a lot of people that I meet, were longtime readers, and they never were sure if they could write a book or never even thought about it. And then some of them are like, no, I always wanted to write a book. I was just waiting for the right time. Which one are you?
I think more of the latter. During the pandemic, I was reading a lot of thrillers, like our mutual friend Andrew Warren, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Brian Drake and his Sam Raven series. Barry Eisler, the Killer Collective is one of my favorite books. He is awesome. Of course, Mark Greaney and the Gray Man. Aidan Bailey and his Triggerman series. And started reading a lot of those books, and I'm like, maybe I should try writing one. So I did. I wrote 3 of them. The entire Gargoyle trilogy I wrote pretty much one after the other, then started shopping them out to publishers, and the great folks at Next Chapter said, hey, we'll publish them. So I'm like, outstanding. And then from there, rolled into the Martini Squad series.
Wow. So what did it feel like publishing your first book?
Actually, it's kind of surreal at first.
Yeah.
Because I'm seeing my name on a book cover being listed on Amazon and other places. And I'm like, wow, that's me.
Yeah.
But it is absolutely awesome. And one of the things I love to do is sign books for people. That's one of the coolest things. Yeah.
Me too. I got a custom pen by the guys at Pennell and Sons. Shout out to those guys at Pennell and Sons. When I wrote my first book, which is a nonfiction leadership book, they sent me a custom pen, and I've signed every book that I've given away or sold. That somebody asked for it, I signed it with that pen, and it's such a nice, awesome pen. It was super nice for them to give it to me. But yeah, I think one of the highlights of being, maybe the highlight for me of being an author, is getting to talk to someone and sign a book for them, and giving that to them, saying, "Please enjoy," and just knowing, you have that kind of that personal connection, because some of those guys like Mark Greene, they sell a lot of books. So I know for a fact Mark likes to sit down and sign books for people and chat, because he really likes to know what people think, and he really appreciates their support, as I'm sure you do as well.
Yes, sir. I also like to encourage people to look me up on Facebook. It's Robert Adamcik, author, on Facebook. And come on by. If you like my stuff, please let me know. If you don't like my stuff, okay. Give me some course correction so I can make my product better. That'd be very nice. But but interaction with my readers, that's the best.
Yeah, it's a little, doing some of this PR stuff's a little awkward. It took me a long time to get into podcasting and to get it into social media, but you almost have to do it that way. You can get your product out there so that people will listen, or they'll pick it up and kind of check it out. But some of this, it's a labor of love. I've told a lot of people, like, you have to kind of grind at it and be your biggest advocate, because there's only so much marketing good publishers have. So you really have to get out there and scream to the high heavens, "Hey, I wrote a book." And sometimes it feels a little almost selfish, or a little bit like you're trying to brag, but you have to tell people, you have to say it over and over again in this modern day, because social media and all that, there's so much content that if you don't constantly say it, it won't ever get any traction.
Yeah, writing sometimes feels like you're just alone in the wilderness, and you're shouting at the top of your lungs, "Look what I've done!" The world's like, meh.
That's probably a truth about this industry, as well as probably a lot of entertainment. You seem to have to put a lot of work in for a little bit of a result, but if you stay after it and you're consistent over time, it seems to pay off a lot better. And I have friends who do this, that we probably mutually know, like my friend Eric Bishop. He's been, self-publishing ever since his second book came out, and he's just been grinding at it on social media, and he has a podcast now that he does, and it's just a grind. And I think he's to a point now where he's really starting to see kind of the fruits of those things. He's got a catalog of several books now, and he's got an audience that's listening and a good following, and I think that's kind of what you have to do in order to make this successful, because it is a grind.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I'm grateful I still have my day job when I do this. Keep the roof over my head while I indulge myself in my writing.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's probably better that way too, because then you can enjoy the writing without the pressure of saying, "I have to get this out. It has to be 5 stars and it has to make me a lot of money." You have that. It's not a job yet. You know what I mean? It is, but it isn't. So you can kind of enjoy it. That's my personal take on it. Like, I get to enjoy the writing because I have a day job. It pays the bills. I'm good. I don't have to worry about a book selling 1 million copies. If it does, that's great. But if it doesn't,
Yeah.
I'm not going to lose my house.
I mean, I'd love to end up on Oprah's book club, but probability is low. So, yeah.
You never know. It only takes one person shouting it out, and the next thing you know, it's a big deal.
Boom.
Let's talk about how you approach writing, because I like to talk to a lot of established authors about this, because there's a lot of hopeful authors that listen in, and they're trying to get a deal. How do you approach setting up a book? Are you a pantser? Are you a plotter and a planner? How does Bob kind of approach it?
Well, I start out with an outline. Sometimes I write it down. Sometimes it's in my head, and I just start writing. And if something pops into my head, it's like, "Ooh, this would be a great location." And I start doing some research, and start filling in the details. Waveforce Affair, like I said, kind of wrote itself because of the Raphael and Molly and their family kind of giving me ideas on where we can go with this, and also thinking of set pieces in my head. Uh, there's some skydiving action in the climax of the book, and I'm like, okay, yeah, Molly is flying. Molly flew the P-3 Orion uh, patrol aircraft in the service, and the aircraft she trained on is also used for skydiving.
Okay.
And yeah, and their rescue of her husband is not sanctioned, so she has to fly the plane so the team can skydive to go collect her husband from a Russian aircraft.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah,
So,
so that's one of those things that kind of just
yeah. So I think you're probably like a lot of people. Is you have an idea in mind, and then you kind of let things go where they go, depending,
yeah.
kind of how the words on the keyboard kind of come out. And I think that was my biggest challenge when I first started writing a fiction book. Was I am a planner and a very organized person by day, and I tried to apply that to writing a book, and it seemed so scripted that it didn't flow naturally, and I had to kind of get to a point where I was like,
Well,
okay, let me ease up on that, and let the creative things flow.
I'm also a firm believer in writing what you know. That's why there's a lot of Navy stuff. Uh, Even in my non-Navy books, like the Martini Squad, I still have some Navy type stuff in there because that's what I know.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good point too. Now, do you do a lot of other research? Because I know you write what you know, and it's very Navy heavy. But are there other aspects in there who maybe you reach out to contacts from, when you're on active duty, and who do you reach out to research and all that?
Well, gotta love Google Maps because that's where I get all my location information from.
Yes, that's very
I never,
helpful.
I never, I never stepped foot in Andorra, but I know where there's a pizza place and the best place to get dinner in the five-star hotel in the capital city of Andorra, thanks to Google Map.
Hmm.
Uh, of course, a lot of the stuff I write about for like on the CIA is all open source material, so uh, that way I don't have to worry about getting it censored or anything like that.
Yeah.
And as far as any other expertise that I may not have, I've got a building full of people. If I need stuff on aviation or submarine warfare or special warfare, I know I can go down the hall or down the flight of steps and find a subject matter expert to ask stuff about, write it down, and to put into my book.
Yeah, that's kind of nice to having those connections. I still know a couple of people up at Space Command that I could pick their brains on. Of course, I know a lot of veterans like yourself who, if I have a question on something, and I always send an email and say, would this actually happen on an aircraft carrier? Yes or no? That way you can get it a little bit accurate, because there's nothing worse than getting an email from somebody who's like, hey, that would never happen, and you're like, ugh.
That's how Andrew and I started communicating. I sent him an email after I read Tokyo Black, and say, "Hey, this is a great book. And, oh, by the way, if you ever have any questions about Navy stuff, here's my email address." And he had questions about Navy stuff, and been helping him out ever since. I think his novella Depth Charge uh, helped him out with submarine questions, because I got a few friends down in the Undersea Warfare Division, former submariners, and they're able to answer his questions. I got a shout out in the book, and I think Code Green, he promoted me to admiral, which was nice.
Wow, that's awful nice of him.
It was. Thanks, Andrew.
So what is next for you? What's the next project you're working on? What's the thing you're working on right now?
All right, the next project I'm working on is tentatively titled The Incel Affair. The basic gist is uh, prominent females are being murdered, and the Martini Squad is investigating, and it's incel type people being manipulated into becoming hitmen for some rich billionaire dude. I'm still fleshing that out yet. I'm about maybe a third of the way through, and they have to track this guy down and stop him before any more women get killed. And just turns out that one of the characters from the Gargoyle series, who was actually modeled on my wife, I just made her the director of the British of MI6, and she's going to be a target in this book. So
Okay.
this is going to be.
Very cool. Very cool. What else are you going to work on? Are you going to continue this series? Or you got any other side projects, your passion projects you want to see the light of day?
I'm not certain. Once I get past the Incel Affair and get that out the door, then I'll start thinking about potentially other type series. But something tells me even after Incel Affair, I think the Martini Squad is going to still have some fun.
Yeah. Are you going to try to do more than one book a year ever? Or are you kind of like a consistent one book? That's what it takes to get it done kind of guy?
Yeah, like I said, with the day job requirements and everything else, it usually takes me about 6 months to a year to get everything together, get it to my publisher, get it edited, get it turned around. So about once a year.
So, where can people go to find more about you? Do you have a website? You said you're on Facebook earlier. Any other social media?
Nope, just Facebook on my author page. Please, if you have any questions about me, just drop me a note, and I'll be very, very glad to get back to you.
Are you a member of I think it's the military thriller books Facebook group? Um, I'll have to look and
Yeah, I'm
see.
on a few of those as well.
Are you? Yeah, the military thriller book group. Um, I'll have to find you and make sure that you're added
Yeah.
on there because that's a nice little community of people. I post the podcast episodes in there every now and then for people to come by and check them out and just to help give people awareness and get some books sold because I know how hard it is to work on one of these things and to put it out there and kind of expose yourself and be vulnerable. You definitely want people reading it and enjoying the stories. So have everybody go out check you out on Facebook. It's the last name is Adamcik, right?
Correct, sir.
And definitely follow Bob. Pick up these Martini Squad adventures and then get the Gargoyle series. The Waveforce Affair is the newest book. Bob, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much for your time tonight. I wish you the best, my friend. Tell Andrew thanks for hooking us up and definitely stay in touch. And when you got your next book out, give me a ring and let's do this again.
Jeff, hey, thanks for having me on my inaugural podcast appearance. You've been awesome. And all my fans out there.
Right. All right, let's get the recording here.